Welcome back to Winter Wolf's Den, guys. It's been a bit of a delay, and for that I do apologize, but King Z was on the road. He traveled up to the semi-Great White North. I mean, it's probably not that far north. I guess that probably wouldn't count. And your buddy Winter Wolf had some bronchitis. He was on an antibiotic and couldn't talk or do his day job for a few days, but we're excited to be back. We kept up with our Andor viewing just to keep you guys posted on those long drives to whatever you go to do in the morning, and we're going to break down episodes 8 and 9. The good news is King Z still liking the show, isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm enjoying where they're going with it. It's showing character development. It's showing past. We're introducing new characters as we go, so it should be fun.
Dude, most definitely. I think the show definitely has its strong points as it's developing these characters and pushing the story forward. I think that I'm starting to understand, though, why some people think the pace is a little too glacial, especially with these kickoff episodes to all of the different mini arcs that we've kind of discussed as we've gone. You know, each of the set of 3. I think episode 8 here, titled Narkina 5, was probably the slowest. I think it was even slower, I think, than episode 1 to kick things off. And it's a little bit of excitement at the end when some shit hits the fan a little bit. But overall, I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's probably my least favorite, I think.
And it goes with what I was telling you when we had the technical difficulty and our thing got cut, is that I do see these last 6 episodes are going to be in sets of 2 now.
Yeah.
You're going to have 2 establishing, 2 setups, and then 2 payoff.
That makes a lot of good sense. Yeah.
And so far what we've seen in 7, 8, and 9 is that 7 and 8 where you're establishing. Now you have 9, which is going to be part of your setup. 10 will be part of your setup. And then 11 and 12 will finish us off and pay us off, roll us into the next season with probably a big cliffhanger. You know,
actually, I meant to click on an article I saw earlier. Somebody was covering that the shooting dates have been confirmed for season 2. Like I think it's underway, I think, just after the new year, I think. Like, I think they'll be on site and ready to roll.
They're in pre-production now.
Right. So that's good. I mean, I'm definitely, unless they completely flub the last however many, what do we have left? 3 or 2 left? We have 3 left, 10, 11, 12.
10, 11, 12.
Unless they completely flub it, I mean, I'm interested in whatever they want to do for season 2, because I've had a good time watching it. I've definitely had a blast talking about it. But again, yeah, and I don't want to get too far off track because, I know we're trying to keep our time limits, but I want to draw a different parallel today to some of the other stuff that's out there. And I think that if I had to compare this to all things comic book movie, I'd probably compare Andor to Black Adam. I don't know if you got out to see it when you've been on the road, but Black Adam with The Rock on the DC side, dude, pretty good. It's probably the second best superhero movie I've seen in a hot minute beside No Way Home, which that was like last Christmas. But the parallel I want to draw is that I think we've been burned by these brands for too long and by the genre for too long, that by the time, now that they're course correcting and they're doing things different and doing with the more traditional storytelling road, I think people are just not paying attention. I don't know if it's apathy or if it's just like people have moved on to short form programming on YouTube and TikTok, or if people are back on, independent movies on like Shudder for horror geeks like us. I don't know what it is, but I think Andor is the best show no one's talking about. And I think one of the issues, I know you haven't watched House of the Dragon to draw another parallel, but every week on House of the Dragon, even if it's not, because there's not a sword fight every week, there's not like a gruesome execution every week, there's not dragon combat every week, but every single time that show's over, I'm like, God damn, that might have been the next best one I've seen, with only like one episode's exception with how they wrote out one particular character, who I won't spoil for you guys if you haven't seen it, who we didn't get to know too well anyway, but it didn't make much sense why she was done the way she was done. But like, there was always it was a hard punch every single episode, not necessarily even a cliffhanger, but there was development that like led to gut punches nonstop. And I think the problem I'm having with Andor is they're on a very predictable pacing, like we've talked about, but there's not a lot of shots to the gut outside. With one of the last episodes we saw with Andor's adoptive father Clem, like how the Empire did him, and ended up hanging him, things like that. I mean, they come, but they're few and far between. So there's not enough emotional investment for me in the story on the level that I would like it to have. That was super long-winded, but there's just those parallels I want to make, especially with the Black Adam thing. Because when I worked out a Black Adam, I was like, holy shit, this thing should have went up against Thor: Love and Thunder. It would have taken its lunch money. the traditional story, a little bit of a redemption arc, no messaging, no politics. Like when they mentioned colonizing, they didn't stick a label on it or make it like the Europeans' fault. It was just like a country that had been the victim of colonizing by many countries, Yeah. And that was as deep as it got. They had a child actor, he was like a teen, but he wasn't obnoxious. He was kind of funny. The strong female character in it was like a doting mother who took care of her family. Her live-in kind of like lovable losery brother was kind of like a chunky build like me, but like he had a hero moment. It was just good. Like I highly recommend you get out to see it. I know you're on the road, but with that's just connection I wanted to make there is that they gave us what we wanted, and it's underperforming at the box office. And the fear I have with that is that if they might look at that and be like, oh shit, well we reversed course and we made even less money. Like, dude, but it was Black Adam, and The Rock really doesn't sell movies on his own. He's usually good in ensembles like Fast and Furious and Jumanji. I mean, look at Baywatch, look at Skyscraper, look at, a couple of the other solo outings and shit. Like, he's not a massive
he is
draw.
the number one grossing actor out there.
Because he's in Fast and Furious, and that's like 4 consecutive billion-dollar movies. But like on a solo level,
he dropped from Fast and Furious.
Oh, right. But he did like Hobbs. Was he in Hobbs and Shaw, or was he out of that? Yeah, he's Hobbs.
Yeah, he was
that's
in
right.
Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
They made a separate one for him.
Right, because he's got some Vin Diesel issues. Jason Statham.
Yeah, Jason. Yeah,
Statham,
both of them don't want to work with the normal franchise anymore.
Right, but you're probably not getting
it. That's why
it.
they kind of broke them off.
I mean, are you going to get a Hobbs and Shaw too? I don't know. Let's go off on a movie podcast. That was me. My bad. I segued into some shit just because I haven't talked in a little bit because of our schedules and whatnot. But how about with those? Go ahead, bud. Go ahead. Do you think?
Going with what you were saying with like, them, the reason why it's probably not doing as good is we're on content burnout with it. They just keep shoving it more and more
and it's decreasing quality too. Like if it was good and good and good, like the first 10 Marvel movies, who cares? Like that was like an event to look forward to, and like through phase 1 and phase 2, there was no burnout with that. I think shit just really needs to be good. But I think you're right. I think on the content side, the MCU on Disney Plus stuff has definitely burned people out because there's not been a runaway success with any of those series. Even the higher rated ones are kind of garbage by traditional cable rating standards, even when adjusted for the lower streaming numbers. So it's I think it's been a disappointing run, but I guess we'll see what happens going forward with phase 5 on that. But to shift back to Andor and Star Wars, guys, we're just going to jump right into it. I'm going to give you the synopsis from the Wikipedia for episode 8 of Andor, Narkina 5. As we left him in episode 7, Cassian's got picked up by the Empire on some trumped up charges, had his sentence multiplied by 6 due to the new public sentencing thing the Emperor handed down. So Cassian's brought to prison facility on Narkina 5, where he spends every day working in monotonous, heavy industry with hundreds of other prisoners. Vel and Cinta travel to Ferrix to search for him, because, that's a loose end for the organization. And when Maarva falls ill, and it wasn't ill, it was something way cooler than that if you actually listen to the dialogue, Bix attempts to contact Luthen Rail to ask about Cassian's whereabouts, but Luthen, worried about being exposed to anyone monitoring communication, doesn't answer. He then leaves Coruscant to meet with Saw Gerrera. I'm sure you've got some stuff to say about that. Meero questions Carn. I definitely like that part because I'm a Meero fan, especially after episode 9. About Karn's experience on Ferrix, but declines his offer to help with the investigation, where instead she leads a unit to Ferrix herself, where she's looking for Bix. And it kind of ends on a bit of a cliffhanger with that. Pre-episode thoughts, dude. I've been talking for a few minutes. Let's get you caught up. What'd you think episode 8 overall before we get into the scenes?
So I knew episode 8 was going to be pretty much a new stepping off point. Episode 7 was where's everybody after everything that happened in episode 6. Episode 7 was just telling their stories and putting things back into place to start moving forward for the end of the series. Or the end of the season, I should say. Yep. Not the series. Episode 8 was that moving forward point of starting to tell the story and build it back up so you have that huge payoff at the end, which we're already starting to see.
Oh, yeah.
As we did into episode 9, we will definitely see as things start rolling out.
Oh, no doubt. I think that by the end of episode 9, you can see like the Empire's definitely starting to take apart the network, and like they're 100% closing in. Like they've engaged the peripheral people first, and that net's just tightening as they go, as they work closer to catching up with Andor. Which the obviously funny part being they already have him, they don't know because he's used like 17 aliases throughout the course of the show so far. I'll say just to jump the episode off once again, I think they spent their money well on this show. The opening shots after we see after we see Andor getting processed, where he's in line and he's kind of like counting off and telling the shore troopers where he's from and his name, and they kind of direct him to a prison transport. When they're flying in and you get that opening visual of like the 6 or 7 different work facilities that are in the middle of the ocean, kind of like the Supermax prison from like Civil War and shit, like that's some cool stuff. Like that's creative, that's imaginative. I definitely like seeing stuff like that in my Star Wars. Like that's why I tune in. Is for some of the spectacle on top of the story.
Seeing all these different places that we've never seen before in the Star Wars universe.
And not for nothing,
circling around to the same 5 different planets.
Dude, if this show can manage to, this show I've always said, right, and compared to things like the Kenobi and the Boba Fett. The issue with those shows is everything's beige, everything's gray, nothing looks lived in. Even when we're on Ferrix here, and it has kind of a Tatooine and vibe, but it's industrialized. It has like people and like factories and shit like that, foundries, scrap yards and stuff. Like it looks real. Like it doesn't look like it's on what's their proprietary tech called, like their version of green screen, where they can basically map the actors into like any setting they want, like panoramically, whatever the tech is called.
I forgot the name of it, but it's
ILM made it, right? It's something ILM came up with. This show right here, even as I'm rewatching it now, that the opening shot where Andor is walking up into transports, like he's walking up cement stairs and getting into a transport, and it pulls back, and you're like, dude, that's like a legit set. Like they did something cool to make that look like realistic, which I like. It feels lived in.
Yeah.
So to catch everybody back up, at the end of episode 7. Andor gets arrested on some bullshit charges. He's being processed and transferred. Not a whole lot going on. He looks understandably nervous because he's just like yanked off the streets. He's got no contact going out. Not a lot to cover in that scene, I'd say, unless you got something there.
Yeah,
good on that. Cool. Yeah, so that's pretty straightforward. Same thing with the next scene. It's basically a silence scene where the ISB kind of rolls in and they kind of find Carn at his workstation. Like he's still tapping away, doing his thing. But this is where they start to tie things together, like we talked about a few episodes ago, where it's 100% going to be the incident report that he filed with his name that Meero finds. And she's like, well, how does this dude have this version of one thing, but it's redacted or doctored? Let's go talk to him and see what's going on, because he basically lost his job over it. We already know that. But there's there's no dialogue in that, so I'm just going to keep moving forward. Andor is getting loaded on to the cattle truck shuttle drop ship thing. This is where we see that there's something a little funky going on because they're kicking shoes off, but all the officers have on the protective anti-conductive boots. Is basically, guys, the prison they're going to, instead of having like maglock floors like from what was that Nicolas Cage movie? Face Off, where they had the maglock boots. Basically, every flat surface in the prison he's going to has like an electrified surface that they can fry at will. And so some shit's gonna get ugly with that. It's basically just them loading onto the ship there. And again, I like the design. Dude, the ship looks like something that they built out of like a storage box. They cut view slats out of it so they can see what's going on. The chairs have those cool maglock on the armrest kind of thing. Cool shit, cool visuals, cool stuff going on. Anything in there?
Yep.
Just gonna roll through until we get to the meat.
No, I'm just really liking the setup. It's well thought out of like how to maintain massive amounts of prisoners.
Yep, definitely. And as we see, and we'll talk about more when they get there, like their actual policing protocols in there that they consider minimally invasive. It seems like the kind of thing that will work given the setting, because what are your realistic chances of escape? They've set it up to make you think that it's a near impossible task. So like you're like, dude, how is he gonna do this shit? So we're gonna get into that. Next scene up is where Carn has gone with ISB. They came to his job, no dialogue, but they basically are like, we need to talk to you about what's going on, because Meero wants to talk to him. So Meero kind of comes in, gives him with the brief bit of the interview. He's asking her about where's Lieutenant Blevin, who's the guy that got unassigned from the Morlana situation and signed it over to Meero here. Walk me through this scene, dude. What'd you think about her? It's not an interrogation per se. She's kind of just questioning him as a person of interest for her purposes.
Yeah, she's just clearing up what the report said, get his first-hand account, and then realize that there was stuff taken out of the report.
Yeah. And I think
that's what she was asking. She wanted to know what was not in the report. And he's like, I've never seen it. And they're like, but you signed it. He's like, I was forced to.
Yep. And I think, and one of the things I like about Meero, again, I keep saying, she's my favorite bad guy in anything, maybe except for Moff Gideon on the series side of things, because I really like that character there. But I like when she's talking to him, and he's basically, he's psychotic, dude. Like, he's Norman Bates. 100%. And you can see it definitely in episode 9. 100%. But she knows he's thorough. She knows that like the obsessive compulsive shit that he's bringing to the job is valuable to her. You know what I mean? So that's why the first time, this is conversation 1 of 2 for them in this episode. So when she leaves the cell, like you said, she tells her attaché, he's like, give him the report, let him read it. And then he basically gets to view over the account that Blevin actually handed in after he was forced to do up his little part. So he gets a different version of what he knows is what he put down on paper. So I thought that was kind of nifty. Yep. And again, Meero here, she's definitely turning it on as like, dude, she's cold-blooded, dude. Like, she is cold as ice. And I love that in villains because, again, for everybody out there, this is how you write strong female characters. There's zero chance we see her throw a punch in this show. Zero. Because she doesn't have to.
She don't need to.
She's effing terrifying. Terrifying on this show. And she's only getting in better as we'll go with her superiors. Because they have that cool conference room scene. I think it's in the next episode where now it's like she's running the show a little bit. And she's like, we're going to do this, and this is the asset package I need and everything else. We'll get to that also, guys. I hate to jump ahead, but this is, again, we get excited on this show when characters are actually written effectively, and Meero is 100% effectively written. 100%.
Yes, she is. She's an amazing character. It doesn't even matter that she's a female. No matter how she's written or not who remotely. It is an amazing character the way they wrote it.
Dude, not a Sith, not a Mary Sue, not a former Spec Ops soldier that's, like I said, she's not going to run and gun with the rebels and take down Saw Gerrera's team by herself. Not happening. Mm-mm. Like she's an intelligence officer, and she owns the part. 100% owns the part.
And just to throw off into another rebel that we talked about, like the people who are complaining about this show might be too slow. These are the same people who don't understand Tom Clancy's writing. Oh, dude, 100%. They're not in it for an 800-page novel. Like they're probably bigger. They're probably bigger fans of the Clancy stuff that he's ghost written or like co-signed to put his name on. Like what's that off series on like Cyberforce? So it's one of the B storylines that he just slaps his name on. So we get another quick bit of Andor, the one we were talking about earlier, where they're actually doing the flying in. You see the facility Narkina 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, and 3 or whatever in the ocean doing the thing. It cuts over to the ISB boardroom, which again, these are always my favorite. These are some of my favorite sequences in the show, regardless of who's talking. I love Meero here. I love, I think it's Patagar. I love Patagar's boss. Patagar, who, if we didn't mention it before, was Qyburn from Game of Thrones. I love this old dude in this role. Love it. The wit and the way he zings people without yelling, without being menacing in like its own way. Like, he could have you hung 100%. But like, he's just like, no, that sounds stupid. Why don't we tell me about why we're going to do that? And they go from there. But run me through what happens at the in the boardroom if you remember. All right, so this is the one where she starts bringing up Andor's name after they iron out the report.
Yep. Where they're basically looking for, they're mentioning Rail by the code name, by Axis.
Yeah, like we're starting to tie the dots. This is where they're realizing that there's a bigger faction in this guy named codename Axis.
Because he's the center.
They have no view. They have no intel on him whatsoever. All they know is that he was with Andor, and they're putting these pieces together. Mm-hmm. And then it was a quick cut after the boardroom where they went back. She went back to the interrogation room, right? And she asked, "What does he remember of Axis?" Yep. And he's like, "I don't remember much. They had me, at gunpoint. I heard his voice.
I remember his voice, right?
Cloak."
Mm-hmm. That actually comes a little bit later. That second conversation. The next cut is back to Narkina, but more importantly, dude, we're good. I mean, we're gonna jump back and forth. I know is what we do. I thought the cool takeaway from the boardroom scene, if I could remind you, is this was the one where basically Meero has submitted like the list of the resources that she wants to go down to Ferrix and being like, I need like this number for, I don't know, it was like troop strength, it was technology, it was like orbital oversight, it was like a resource package, and like the guy Patagar's boss, whose name I can't remember.
That's right. And he goes, it's a little
like, this is a little lot, it's a little much, and she's like, yeah, but it's what we need to do, and since I've been right so far, like, let's do this shit. And once again, this is my 5-second rant for the whole thing. Did anybody in this boardroom call her out for being a chick or for being overzealous or not knowing what she's doing? Not a soul.
The only part was where he questioned, this is a little pricey, but no, that's what
and
the bean counters
that's
do.
what the bean counters do. 100%. So once again,
But-
she's treated
But
as an
you
equal.
see her supervisor stepped up and
Yep.
said, like, he's like, we put a lot of trust in her. We
Yep.
believe she's moving in the right direction.
Dude,
And he's
I
like,
think
okay, let's make that.
dude,
bring
his
it
exact
home.
words are over the last month or whatever, because it like time is passing here. His exact words are, well, she's convinced me, and that's good enough
Yeah.
for like the bean counter boss. And I'm like, because that's exactly how bureaucracy works. Like this is authentically this is what would happen. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so once again, the soapbox shit. If I wish they just it was one article that I came across, but it stick right in my eye when I read it because I'm like, you didn't need to say that, especially knowing it's the complete opposite of what actually happens in world. You know, because in further defense of the character, it's not even like she's had that scene where she's had to go back to her quarters, slam the door, and bitch and complain that nobody's taking her seriously. Like she's earned her spot and continues to show her competence, so people treat her with respect and like, hey, okay, let's do this shit.
Yeah.
I've signed off on the ordinance package. Let's do it. And that's
And
it.
even subordinates are not like, oh, well, you're just a female officer.
Right.
You're nothing like that.
Dude, her
They
assistant
are-
loves her 100%. He wants to be
And
her.
like all the other people, they just listen to her.
Yep, dude, because she put Blevin in his place because he was in it. He was prideful. He overextended himself. He didn't take his shit seriously, and they put him on blast for it. But again, they didn't execute him or jail him. Like they basically just said, we're taking this one teeny tiny little thing away. Because remember, he had 12 planets assigned, and she had like 3 or whatever. And so like Ferrix would be like her 4th or 5th or whatever. It's like he still maintains his dignity and position. She gets this as the pet project, and like this is good stuff, guys. It's too bad people are sleeping on it for whatever reason. But to return to the flow, next scene is where they offboard the prisoners actually into the Narkina facility. They're barefoot and standing on the shock floor. We get a little compliment of the internal security. The corrections officers coming up. No blasters. They have shock sticks. Makes sense. They need something. But they basically demonstrate the power of the floor and mention that it
this
has
is the
one
show
of
'em
3.
the gun line boss.
Yep.
Or tell them about the gun line boss.
Yep. They're like, so they basically they fry these 8 guys, and like the actors are pretty good. Like they go down to like their knees and contort and like in almost perfect unison, but in different ways. Like they left it up to them to sort it. But like they fry them for a couple seconds, and when they get up, like the head CEO is like, "Well, that was setting 1 of 3."
Yeah.
And it looked like
And
these guys
hopefully this
wanted
is
to
the last
die.
time we have to do this.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said this could either be this could be your future, or this could be like a distant memory. All up to you. You know, I'm like, okay, message sent. All right, why don't we just go ahead and comply for the time being? I'm gonna skip it ahead here. Basically, they run down. The CO runs down that it's a work facility. They've been judged as labor effective or labor ready, and that it's not a prison per se. Like they're making like it looks like engine parts or something heavy duty mechanical. Like it takes a lot of guys to work it. So he gets the rundown from them. They get shocked. I'm just trying to see, and then we're back on Carn for conversation number 2.
Okay. That
and
part
this-
I already talked about where she came in to
yes.
get the information about the man who was with Andor.
Right. And then basically, but see, there's a pivotal part here that I liked where she's identified Karn's usefulness, but she thanks him and, sends him on his way. And he basically stands up for himself, like directly being like, whoa, 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 whoa. You said it yourself. I've been of big service to the Empire. I solved a double homicide in 2 days with no help and actually being hindered by, my boss and whatnot. And she just kind of like looks him up and down, and she's basically still sends him about his business anyway. Like, talk to me again, and you might never like leave the room, kind of thing, or whatever she says. But I like this out of Carn because I think, like you said, we always talk about development here. His character is on his arc of its own. He's not going to redeem anything. He's still a piece of shit villain without a doubt, and he's psycho. There's no doubt
Which we'll
in my
see
mind.
even more
yeah.
in the next episode.
Oh yeah, dude. I'll throw out any kind of bet anybody wants to throw out that this dude murders somebody in cold blood by the end of this show that isn't anybody on the rebel team. But so now he sticks up for himself here, which is good because we see that again. He sticks up for himself a little bit more with Mom in the next one. I mean that stuff's coming around. Let me just advance that here because we're back on Andor. Dude, if we could just get this whole there's a segment in the middle here where basically Andor's brought into like the cell block. He meets Andy Serkis's character. They kind of get the rundown on like what they do. what like a day-to-day kind of life looks like. It's kind of a long segment. We get to see the different parts of the facility, and we get a kind of a look at the scope of how big just one of the floors on the prison block that he's on is. I just want to talk a little bit about the workroom, because that's basically all we see. We see the workroom and the cell block. Maybe you can talk a little bit about both, so we don't have to go through.
It looks like the standard clean room based on the way they're dressed.
I thought
and
that.
how it operates.
Everything's white. The floors are like the metal for the shock surface. Workstations are all sterile. Looks like. Yeah,
you also see that the prison guards have little influence on there. It's prisoner ran, prison operated. Each of them count days by how many shifts they have left.
For context, guys, a shift is 12 hours. So so they don't count days to release.
Which he breaks down in this scene. He was like, and then he assigned them to a table. He's like, "You're gonna be on table 5 right now. They're last, so they're a man down."
So tell me a little bit. Now there's a game they play while they're working. Yeah. So run us through that a little bit.
Keep production up. The lead table gets actually like almost like real food.
Yeah, flavor. Yeah, you get flavor. Yep.
Yeah. And the last table gets electrocuted.
Now this is the best part too, because we see this happen, right? I don't remember if it's this episode or the next. I think it's the end of this one, where it's like there's a part of the workstation floor like in the middle, and basically Andy Serkis, who's the shop foreman, and as King Z and I were talking about pre-show, that I love this dude in any role he does. Like he's just whatever role they need. I'm like, that's how that guy would be. Like, that's exactly how I envisioned this would go. But anyway, Circus is like, all right, table, whatever, in the box. And it's just like the one, it's almost like that little part of the dance floor, like a rec hall, where it's like, it's all carpet, but then it's like, the 16 by 16 linoleum tile. And you don't actually get to see it because the camera kind of pans over the shoulders of everybody that's watching. The poor guys like line up to stand in it, and they're all looking like, oh, motherfucker, I can't believe this shit. And like, I think you can hear the hum as it goes on, but you don't actually see anybody contort. So it's basically they've got an in-house game that motivates them to want to produce as much as they can while they're on the line. You would talk about a little bit about the cell blocks. They're a little bit different, but kind of the same as the workstation.
Yeah. And pretty much how they control it without security guards is you have a certain amount of time on the floor. You got to be in your cell before the floor goes hot. Because once the floor is hot, it's probably level 3 is what I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, dude. Because as we see later in the episode, somebody we'll get there. But it's no bars because they control the floor. They also say that they can control the standing surface in your cell because they specifically say if we get 2 guys in a cell for whatever reason, fried auto.
Yeah.
But like they have unlimited water. They have unlimited food sludge. Instead, eat as much as you want. They like us healthy and fueled. Like you said, the prize for production is flavor, like the better shit. So there's some motivation there. And the only other thing they have in their cell besides the bunk and the toilet is like the one display monitor that has the constant reminder of how many shifts they have left. And Andor's is like 2,182 because it's like a galactic standard 6-year kind of sentence or whatever it is. So that's kind of effed.
We also find out that Smeagol has 249 days left.
Yeah. I think,
and if y'all don't know, the guy who plays the shop foreman is Smeagol.
Yep, Andy Serkis. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Which is weird because he's built like a brick shithouse, and the Smeagol character is like 82 pounds if he's 82 pounds. So it's funny thinking that a dude that size, even when he was a little younger, doing the green suit, the mocap suit, like they converted him down. You know what I mean? It's kind of funky. But dude, he's good, dude. He really is. Like he's good in anything I've seen him in. Too bad he doesn't like it. I guess he's doing stuff. So I can't say it's too bad he doesn't do more stuff because he's where he needs to be. Running through the next, we're back on Coruscant because we're with Senator Mon Mothma. She's at what looks like a little benefit, something for the Foundation that they'd been talking about earlier on. And as we can see, it's basically she's waiting on the arrival of a certain guest. Who she had been in contact with in the previous. That already happened, right? She talked to her old friend from school, or is that this one? Now I'm a little lost.
No, that happens during this. They're there to smooth out votes.
Yeah,
she was there to meet a couple of the senators she's trying to get support from.
Okay, so she hasn't met her old friend yet with the who's got the connections with the finances, or did that already happen? Now I'm lost because we haven't done this in a while.
No, that happens during this. Like,
Okay,
she runs
so
into him again.
oh yeah, okay, that's okay.
Yeah, her and the husband run
Yes.
into him, and then he steps off, and then they start
Yes,
talking, and
that's
then
right.
she gets interrupted by someone who's been
Yep.
following one of the senators, so she
Gotcha.
goes off with him, and he goes off.
That's right. So it's basically Mon Mothma doing politicking stuff, like you said, and again the dickbag
and it was-
husband being a dickbag.
And it was about how she's trying to get into her accounts,
Right, true.
her fortune.
Which, as we know, is the issue because the Empire is laying down like extensive scrutiny on like probably every senator in the building, trying to see where loyalties may lay, and that's
Every bank account.
starting to be a little bit of a problem. All right, so we're
You
back
know,
on. Yeah,
like
go ahead, dude.
checking your PayPal for $600.
Or PayPal and introducing clauses that say if we disagree with your speech off platform, we can fine you $2,500. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that
move your
went
money
away
off
real
PayPal,
quick.
people. Dude, they brought it back. It was back within a week. They quietly threw that back in there, and it completely went under the radar. Dude, I'm telling you.
We were looking at it last week, and before I came back here, and it was removed.
Oh, dude, I thought for certain somebody told me that they slipped that in with an alteration of the term of service.
No.
We're back on Narkina 5. Andor's in the cell. We're getting a little bit of the day by day. We get another look at him eating. They think they kind of at this scene, I think they mentioned that like 30 shifts have gone by because they changed. There's a shot where the display changes. So there is a bit of a time jump here where he's locked up. So the pace, they thankfully grind that down out of the episode, which is nice.
Yeah.
It'll make us go through a month's worth of shit. But
We
he's
don't
basically
need to see every day of
Right.
him in prison.
Well, I mean, they give you a little bit of a taste because I think what's coming up here, if I remember right, is there's like a group, like they put the guys on the conveyor belt, they run them in, they do like a group sonic shower, gas shower thing. Don't worry, guys, it's completely safe for work. It's not like there's nothing nude here like HBO, like what was that show? Oz. It wasn't like that or anything like that. It's pretty sanitary, and so they basically give you the rundown. They get the new uniforms and shit like that, but then they get on the floor. We see these guys, working as a team. There's 7 guys on a team. We see here at this point one of the guys on their team is an older guy. I think his name is Olaf. He's also the short timer in the entire room. Like he's only got like 40 shifts left at this point or something like that. But he's probably 20 years older than everybody else on the team minimum. He's up there. Like he's basically like Brooks from Shawshank at this point is where he is with this situation. And again, this is good storytelling here, guys, because they're setting up. It's not even like it's a C plot that graduates to a B plot that ends up being like A plot motivation for Andy Serkis's character at the end of episode 9 as they wrap up on that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Olaf and the situation? Like what's going on with him on the team, pretty much.
So, of course, as an older gentleman, and as I know, as I get older, you start slowing down.
Shit ain't fun, guys. It ain't fun.
You can't do it all. What you used to be able to do fast, it goes a little bit slower.
Things hurt. Joints hurt.
Yep.
I think one of the things I did like in watching them work, though, is especially with Olaf, is we see it over this episode and the next episode. The decline it's already happened because he's older, but it's gradual in the show. At this point in the episode, he's putting they're like assembling like a manifold of some kind or an engine part or whatever it is. It's like heavy equipment. It takes all 7 guys.
I don't think we'll ever find out what they're actually making.
It's a widget. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It could be a hyperdrive part. It could be whatever. I mean, it could be like a part of a space toilet. Who knows? You know what I mean? It could be anything. But the Olaf character is basically like he's part of the team. Like they're still producing, but like the parts are going in a little slower, and he's doing this every now and again. But he's not out of it, to this point in the episodes. They're still like making numbers and shit. Circus isn't giving them a hard time, like, why are you falling behind, things like that. So they're still working okay as a unit. Andor's obviously ingratiated himself to his team. There's no contrived butting of heads between him and like prison boss, like American History X shit or anything like that. Basically,
he still treats him like the new guy. He has too many questions, and he's like, you just need to squash that.
Yep.
We gotta get to work. You have a chance of winning today.
Yep.
Don't let this pass. And he goes right back to work.
Yep.
Every time
he
he
does.
asks him a question, he goes right back to work.
Circus is running the floor. Next scene's back on Ferrix, which is cool because I kind of missed this place. And that's weird, dude, because like I said about the other 2 Star Wars shows, dude, I hate the desert planet motif, but this isn't that despite the color scheme. And I know you on the visual side of things with the VFX and things like that and video editing, like the color scheme is all the same, But for whatever reason, like, it's rusty and dusty. It looks lived in. There's dudes walking by in like sweat stained work clothes. There's droids just like going by doing droid shit, and everything looks alive on this show. Everywhere they go, it's populated by people doing things, and I don't even care what they're doing, but they're doing things. It's like if you and I were to, if you got off the plane up at Logan and we were going downtown and going to like a Bruins, Red Wings game or something, us walking to the Garden, we'd see shit like this, in different parts of the city. And it feels authentic, like it's lived in, But it's basically the I got a little carried away there. Go ahead.
Yeah, that goes with the, the dread of the background artist and the second AD. So when you're on set, you have a first AD, you have a second AD, and then you have a second AD. And AD stands for assistant director. Mm-hmm. The second is responsible for most of your background that's on set and signing people in, signing people out. Yep. They're there to provide help that has a little bit more power than a PA, which is a production assistant, the lowest people on the totem pole. Mm-hmm. And so the second does a lot of the placing and giving direction to the background.
All right. So like we were saying, Brasso's kind of getting his walk on. He's kind of looking around, seeing like the increased Imperial presence kind of thing. He's going to visit Maarva. Bix is already there, kind of taking care of the old lady a little bit. And if you look closely, old lady's got a little bit of an abrasion up on her head. And this is where I think the Wikipedia synopsis was a little wrong. It said falls ill. No, she didn't fall ill, guys. Like they say in the dialogue here when Brasso comes in to visit and talk with Bix, that basically Maarva was snooping around the hotel that the Imperials kind of hold up and trying to see if like an old access tunnel worked. Because deep down, Bix knows Maarva's a rebel. And she's going to do whatever she thinks she can do to help. And it's going to get her hurt. And it did. Because now she's got like head injury going on. You know what I mean?
And they said that the doctor already came in and gave her a shot, and she didn't want to leave her house because,
And again, not to God, Duke, I didn't mean to cut you off. God.
Oh no, I was saying it was her house.
Oh right. No, and she said that last week. She's like, dude, I'm not running. Like this, for better or worse, she's done here. Like this character is not leaving this planet. It's not happening. But one of the things I liked about this scene here is, so Maarva's in bed, or sitting in her recliner or whatever. Bix is there taking care of her, kind of doting on her. Like, it's just not her mother, but they're close. And it's like a normal relationship. And then Brasso comes in, and he's concerned for the old lady. And it's a normal relationship. And then, Bix says to Brasso, or vice versa, why are you concerned? She's not your mother. And then it's not like a direct jab, but then the response is, well, she's not your mother either. But it's obviously someone they both fucking care about. And it's like we shouldn't have to point this out as being like some great example of like good character and relationship building and development. But where do we get this in other shows? And the shows that I complain about all the time, these are the kind of connective tissue things that are missing. Where it's like this scene here makes it for me that when Maarva does something and gets herself killed in episode 11 or some shit, like, and then Brasso does something brash or whatever, or Bix does something, like, this is the shit that makes those things punch. This is the shit Rings of Power got wrong, because they skip right to those payoff moments where somebody does something cool, like holds the line alone, but because they didn't earn it, there was no build up, there was no setup, you're kind of like, yeah, don't care. But this right here solidifies, you know what I'm saying? Like, this scene right here takes three minor characters, because Brasso's a minor character. He's not jumping into X-Wing and gonna gun anything. Bix is like a shop owner. She's not a ninja. She's not lightsabering anybody in an episode and a half. And Maarva's a smuggler, but she's like, what, 170? I don't know. You know what I mean? But like, so these aren't heroes in the traditional sense, but there's gonna be an impact from all of them. There's no way it goes without that. No way. And it's a testament. It's credit where credit's due, and a testament to the writers that knew this. And this is what you get when you hire professionals like Gilroy and company. They know these scenes have to exist for everything else to pay off later. So they're taking care of Maarva here. I think this is where they decide that they got to reach out to Andor somehow. And is this where Bix decides that she's got to give Rail a ring and see if he answers? I don't know if that comes up yet.
It's coming up soon.
Okay.
Which
triggers
a whole bunch of other stuff that happens, which we all find out in the next episode. Actually, we find out towards the end of this one, and then it continues on at the beginning of the next episode.
Oh yeah, dude, it's what pulls the rug out from under the whole thing. Next scene, we're back on Cinta and Vel. They've investigated down to Ferrix to look for Andor as a loose end to wrap up however they see fit. We get two very different characters than I think I had thought they were going into the show. They have a little conversation in a little bistro where one of the characters is very much on mission and the other character is not as on mission. What do you remember about this scene? You remember what the convo is looking like? Who wants to do what?
So
it's cool if you don't. Dude.
One of them, which was Cena.
Cinta, yeah, dude. You call her Cena every week, dude.
Yeah,
throw a T in there, damn it.
Cinta wants to stay and keeps staking out, trying to find Andor because they have the kill on sight order. And Vel's like, we're wasting our time. We need to move on. Let's get out of here. And kind of wants more time between the two of them, where Cinta's like, we got to accomplish the mission. Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah. Cinta is definitely the rebellion through and through, where she's like, the rebellion. What she say? The Empire takes everything, we take what's left, kind of thing. And she's kind of like, the relationship's cool and all, and yeah, you're kind of the hottest blonde in Star Wars, but gotta stay focused a little bit. And that leaves and Vel's obviously not. She's not good with that. There's nothing said. You know what I mean? There's an exchange of a jab at one point where Cinta says to Vel, I think it's this scene where she's like, Vel says, all right, well, what are you going to say? Who are you going to say you are if you stay? And Cinta says, well, I could pretend I'm a spoiled rich girl running from home. And Vel says, that's cold even for you. And then as we find out later, and I'm like, dude, I think I speculated in episode 1, like when we met Vel for the first time, and we're like, we really don't know who she is. Is she Luthen Rael's daughter? Is she a rich kid on the run, doing some other things? And it turned out that way a little bit. But we'll get that. We'll cross that when we go there. So the scene wraps up where Vel basically, she's gonna bail. She's gonna go off and do Vel stuff. But Cinta says, hey, I found a room for rent, like right around the corner. I'm gonna take it because it's basically like a stakeout point of like Maarva's apartment, like the front door to the apartment. Like it's like dead line of sight, So she's sticking behind to do that. But again, I like the relationship building here. These are not one-dimensional characters. They're not Mary Sue's. They're a couple. They're in a relationship. It's a romantic relationship, but priorities are different in there, and that's real life stuff.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you were in the military, and I'm sure you've run into this in relationships before, where it's like, transfer orders might have impeded, seeing certain people or marriages and, other interests that you had with family and things like that. This is real world stuff. Am I right? I mean, this is what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, albeit the Empire's not shooting at me currently, but, you never know. The elections are on Tuesday. Who knows who's shooting around Tuesday? We'll see what happens. But, so they have their little chat. It's pretty good. It's actually chat's a little bit longer than I thought, but they're doing right by the visuals. Next scene up is Bix is into the scrapyard to see. I don't think we got his name before, but it's basically the name is Pack that runs the scrapyard where the radio tower is. And actually, I think this is the point you were talking about a couple minutes ago, where this is kind of where things start to fall apart later. But this is the jump off point. Is Bix basically shows up needing to use the radio to call Rael to ask if he knows where Andor is because they're worried about Maarva. And Pack is like, I don't think that's a good idea with all the Imperials down here. But she basically says, it's an emergency. I need to do this shit. It's for a good reason and whatnot. And he acquiesces and lets her go do the thing. She climbs up and she does the beep 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 on the radio. Pretty straightforward stuff. Not a whole lot to analyze here. I mean, we know Pack's part of the smuggle ring and the rebellion ring, so it's not like she strong armed him or anything like that. Next scene though, I think this is a King Z scene right here. Is we're back on Coruscant and Luthen Rael is kind of watching his assistant take that radio call from Bix, and they have two very different ways they want to respond. Walk me through that if you can.
It's either tell me shut it down, or we go in and we end this with her too. We put her on the list. Because what she's doing is she's bringing attention to the ring, which would bring tension to Rael, which put him on Coruscant, and it's just a domino effect.
Yeah. And I think this is a nifty follow-up because I think it was episode 6-ish. There was a line of dialogue where, I think it was 6, actually. No, I'm sorry, it was 7. Where when Vel meets this Clea, the shop attendant, she's like, receiving messages is just as dangerous as sending them. So maybe you want to quiet that shit down for a little bit before, everybody in the galaxy is listening into our conversations. So this is kind of like a follow-up to that. But I think the interesting psychology here is that Clea kind of accuses Rael of kind of going soft and not wanting. Again, she's the diehard one, and she semi-accuses him, but they smooth it over at the end of the conversation. Where because it's been a month later, he's like, I've just been hiding for so long, and we actually need to take some action, kind of thing. But they kind of resolve. They don't take the call, like they're not sending the cavalry
he's like,
that we know.
Shut it down.
Yeah, he kills it.
And then he's like, I'm not going soft. He's like, I'm just trying to be cautious. I was really exposed on this one.
Right. Dude, it was probably as close as he's ever come to anything. I mean, the running gun battle at the end of episode 3 probably scared the crap out of him. Because he, as we see later in this with the Saw Gerrera stuff, which there's some great dialogue in there. But I like at the end of the scene here again, it's the shopkeeper isn't a two-dimensional henchman either, because at the end of the conversation, she's like, I know, like you said, I know you're not going soft. I'm just worried about you. And like it's basically there's a nurture there also. These are people that are in the struggle together, and it's not, everybody eat everybody for these guys. Not yet anyway. I mean, it might go there, but for right now, they're not. You know what I mean? They are pulling together in their way, which again, I think it's a testimony to better writing than we get in other places. Next scene out, it's just a quick cut of Bix shutting the radio down after the call gets denied. Nothing there. Next scene out after that is Vel is on a transport ship by herself. She's obviously tearful, and they do this I just lost my place. They do this really cool intercut. I don't know what the technical term is, but it's like she's looking out the window, and they're kind of fading her out as they're fading in Cinta back on Ferrix, looking out her window down at Andor's apartment, which was just cool camera work, which is probably a technical term for it, but it's cool. But again, it shows the different focuses of these characters. As Vel wishes Cinta was with her and is longingly looking out the window of the transport ship for her girlfriend, and Cinta is like dead-eye sniper on the on Andor's place, looking through the blinds, like any minute now that old lady coming out. You know what I mean? So it's like it's just an interesting dichotomy with them two in the relationship there. We're back on Rael. Rael's basically in his ship. He's plotting a course to somewhere. They don't tell you where. It's kind of in the mystery there a little bit. The next part kind of gets into some shit in the prison cell, which is kind of cool. It's locked down for the night. Floor is hot. Andor's settled in for sleepy. But one of the guys who, during one of the conversations and processing and like the conveyor lines, who had a couple of mouthy things to say that Circus had shut down previously, makes himself some life-altering decisions. And go.
Well, we have to go back a little bit to when they first went to the cell block. They had the questions about what about this new directive? All of our shift numbers double.
Dude, my bad, dude. I totally forgot about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he goes, I don't know anything. I don't know anything, which sets up this, meaning this guy believes he's never going to be free.
Right.
This is going to be his life.
Yep.
Which...
Yeah,
we find out later. But
we'll get
he
to
go
that.
ahead and he goes and steps on the floor at night, and takes his own life, which is very common in prison.
Yep. Now, I thought one of the most effed up parts of this is one of the guys calls out from the background, "Now we gotta smell him all night," and I'm like, dude, that is fucked. That is Rogue One levels of bleak, right? Like that was probably the gut punch for me for the episode. I was like, dude, he's right. Like, there's nobody coming down to clean this up. I mean, maybe they'd respond. I guess that's like a floor violation or whatever they call it. So maybe they would, but in the meantime, it's cooking. It's cooking until they decide to go down there.
And it's like burnt popcorn.
Dude,
stay.
They ain't flushing that out, dude. Do you think that the default floor setting is 3 of 3 compared to like what they wanted them with on the way in? Like, do you think it's max setting just to deter?
I think at night when they have no guards probably on duty, it's just 3 of 3. If you step on it, you're just straight dead.
True. Yeah, so that was good. When he said we're gonna smell him all night, I actually laughed. Like it was dark humor on a level. I was like, dude, I get it that this is effed up, but like, all right, like VMOS is gone.
And it just shows how desensitized they really are. It's all about. It's just the next day.
Yep. Coming up on, I think it's the second to last scene here. Oh no, the third to last. We still have Saw. We're back on Ferrix. Bix is kind of walking out of her place for the morning, or Maarva's place, and they're doing the ding, 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 ding with the metal pipes thing. Like there's like the civil alert going on. Crowd is gathering outside the scrapyard shop. When we get there, the owner of the shop, Pack, I think we met his son only in the last episode. I don't think he was named, but he's basically screaming at the ISB guy, like, "Where's my dad? Like, you took him out of here last night. Where is he?" Kind of thing. They're about to smack that kid up too.
Yeah, she runs into Brasso first, and he's like, "It's Pack. He didn't come home last night." Right.
Basically, so the ISB guys, they're using the stormtroopers to like break up crowd control and set up a perimeter and shit. And dude, ISB guys being intelligence guys and paying attention to their world and seeing details. Dude, he basically eyeballs Bix in the crowd, but doesn't know it's her, but has the sense of mind to be like, yo, he calls for an iPad or whatever from one of his guys, and he's like, oh, interesting. And then all hell breaks loose. So run me through the hell breaking loose. This is your specialty.
So he's like, he actually calls her by name.
Dude,
names her
dead
straight
ass.
out just by looking at her.
Yep.
And Brasso's like, "You need to go. You need to run. You need to go." And he's like, "Get her!" And they send troops after her.
Yep.
Brasso kind of does a little shoulder bump. And
dude, how boss was that?
He's trying to be like the innocent bystander, but like gets a little shoulder in there. Like, I ain't a pushover. You're not gonna go through me. You don't have to go around me.
Let me pause you right there, because for the guys that aren't watching Andor, Brasso's probably what, 6'4", 280? If I'm eyeballing him right, he's a big dude.
Boy.
He's a big dude. Go ahead, man. Read us through the rest.
And then she starts running.
Yep.
And then they finally they circle around, and she runs into guards, and they take her in. And he's like, "Take her to the hotel."
Yep. which is not as good as you think it is.
Yeah, which we all remember is that they made that the new Imperial
HQ.
base.
Yep. True. So let me skip that ahead there. Good read through, dude. Good read through. So is that rail ship there flying in? Oh no, yes, that's rail ship going down to Segra Milo, which is the current location of Saw Gerrera's base. I love this opening. I don't know why. It's like, again, it's landscape that I know is probably not real, that they probably did make use of the ILM effects for this particular bit, because there's like a broken down old like T-31 X-Wing or whatever it is, kind of like, it's just like it's silver and tarnished and everything else. There's one of the, and I don't remember the race in Star Wars guys, but it's the guys that always wear like Plo Koon, the respirator with the two tubes with the giant sentry rifle. And I think he's in Rogue One. I think that's one of Saw's guys that's there. It's probably the same dude. But dude, I just love that. It's like, this is Star Wars. You're landing in a new location. The planet's name goes on the screen, so I know where you are. And it's like the establishing is just so cool. There's like equipment outside. There's like the one X-Wing, because it's like a rebel unit. Like, they're not going to have a runway full of like 75 brand new X-Wing top of the line fighters and shit like that.
It's whatever they can scrounge up.
Guerrilla group, right?
Whatever
That's exactly what it is. But again, even in this shot, if you're rewatching it, even as the guy with the respirator is kind of standing like, Overwatch on everything, when you go down in the back and actually there's two X-Wings now that I let the whole scene play out, but it's like, whatever, they get two, big fucking deal, but there's extras, whether or not they're actual actors or if they were CGI'd in or whatever, but there's people doing stuff, like they're fueling the ships, they're carrying cargo. It's like, it's an actual rebel base that's alive. Like, things are happening. It's not just like a high school production where like you and I do this matte painting of something and then we just act against the static background. Like, it's a place. For the purpose of the show, it's an actual place, and I like that. I'm always going to give credit to that shit like we do, because it's cool what they do. So, big scene here, because we do a whole lot of world developing in a very short amount of time, I think, in this, and we get some Luthen character development in one of the best lines from both of them, really. Where we meet Saw Gerrera, 5 years pre-Rogue One. We don't get a look at his...
Welcome back, Forrest Whitaker.
Welcome back. We don't get to see if he's got the cybernetic lower limbs yet. Because they kind of, it's always
sitting most of the scene.
It's mostly sitting and mostly from like the waist up kind of thing. But we basically get a good back and forth that kind of let you know where, relative to each of these people, what their particular priorities are. And the Rail's gone down to see Saw Gerrera with like a business proposition. He's worked with Gerrera in the past, like sold him tech, is pretty much what you can take away. So he's brought him some of the items that were kind of the most recent heist, not the Star Path unit that he lost, obviously, on Ferrix, but other stuff that they need, like deflectors and nav stuff and whatever widgets they called them. And when Gerrera asks him how much, Rail says, you got to meet with this one guy because he's planning a strike on whatever Imperial installation on Spellnos or whatever they called it. And Guerrera says no. And then that launches them into the more important discussion of, I don't risk my people for other reckless people that are stupid and, don't have any clarity. We're not all pulling together because we're all different factions of this person's this and this person's that and this. Give me your take on this scene before I babble on too long, because there's two killer lines that come up, and I know you're going to know what they are.
So yeah, it's a little back and forth of them trying to play who's doing what. He's like,
that was the best.
About Andor, and he's like, is that you? He's like, if it was you, and then he's like,
that's something you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good shit.
But you pretty much, if you go back all the way to Rogue One, you find out that Saw Gerrera's group was even too extreme for the rebels. He was a rebel too extreme. So,
yeah.
With him saying no to someone else,
yep.
It's almost like you don't want to deal with this guy.
Yep.
He's like, I'm not going to deal with him. You shouldn't be in his back pocket either. But Rail's looking just for any type of soldier to send in. Let's do some hits and then fade into the background.
Yep. I think the part of the conversation I like most is when Guerrera is like, this person is a human cultist, and this person's a separatist, and this person's an anarchist. And he says to Rail, he goes, what kind of person are you, Luthen? I don't think I've ever really known. And I'm like, this is a conversation that started very jovial, very master of the crafts, respecting each other, very amicable, but very friendly. But it gets really serious really quick. And it's a testimony to how great these two actors are that they pull this off.
Yes.
But Rail's answer, and this knocked me like right over. Dude, Rail says, I'm a coward. Always been a coward. But and I'm afraid we're going to get to a point where the Empire gets so strong, no one will be able to do anything. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
But the kicker part to that is that Guerrera's not buying. He goes, no sale today, bro. And he basically sends him packing. And I'm like, oh shit, dude. So you know what? This is an example where in the story, it doesn't always the next thing happens because it needs to happen. Luthen Rail had a scene goal here, guys. Scene goal, writing 101. Everybody wants something in a scene. It could be a glass of water. It could be to hire a fucking mercenary team. But Rail leaves empty-handed here. So he has failed in an objective, which again, good writing.
He also he didn't leave his goods anyways for a team because he wants to use it for his purposes. So the goods he was trying to trade for him to talk with Homeboy and go do this raid. He's like, you're not getting that either. So
right. Yep. Yes, I'm really glad they brought Forrest Whitaker back for this, because I think that this is the kind of character that they need. He's memorable. He's probably the most memorable person out of Rogue One, I thought. I mean, Andor wasn't it for me after I saw Rogue One. It was probably Blind Not Jedi was also probably most people's favorite. But no, this is a great scene here. Next scene, we're back on Ferrix. We're at the ISB hotel headquarters. We enter on this poor bastard, Pack, who the ISB got, the scrapyard owner, torching him overnight. He's beaten in a chair, emotionally exhausted, because we'll see why with the methodology. We know he's kind of cooked. We get a really good glance at how cold-blooded Meero is here, because her junior officer or whichever, he's like, I want to hang this guy to set an example. She's like, whatever, I don't care, kind of thing. But another good little cold-blooded part here is they're setting up the scene where they're bringing Bix in, and the guys are like, do you want me to take this piece of shit out of the room, meaning Pack? And she's like, nah, leave him there so she can see him on the way in. And I was like, dude, that is messed up. But again,
you got to set the room when you're doing interrogations. Little stuff like that pays a huge impact.
But
now,
again,
of course, they're going to go and use extreme measures, but the U.S. we don't torture. But we will mind, we will mind fuck you so bad.
Dude, it's like, dude, this is like Hannibal Lecter level of evil that Meero's bringing to her job. So again, not one-dimensional, cleverly written, vindictively. She's vindictive at her execution, relentless in her goals. Dude, I love watching this character work. Love her more in episode 9, because that shit gets real ugly in episode 9. But we basically get a little bit of the setup conversation here, and not much more. I don't think they actually put her in the chair yet. No, that doesn't happen yet. I'm just checking now.
No. They just pretty much bring her into the room.
Just to see Pack get dragged out, basically. I think we wrap on this episode where we're back in Narkina 5. This is just a real short. The team's kind of working. They look like they're working in perfect unison with the heavy equipment that kind of comes down from the ceiling. Guys are moving parts back and forth. And I think that's the end of... I'm just going to slide it a little bit more to make sure. Yeah, that's the end of that's the end of episode... What was this, episode 8? Yeah, episode 8, Narkina 5. Dude, give me some all-around thoughts on the episode before we go to scores out of 5.
So this episode, like I said, this is the second half of the establishing arc that I've been talking about throughout this whole series. First, it was the first 3 episodes, and there was the next 3 episodes. Now I believe they're going to take the 4 episodes, or the last 6 episodes, and do 2-part for the establishing setup and payoff. And so far, it's playing right into what I thought it would. The acting has been amazing. If you look at the level of actors you have in this, I mean, you have Sosdar, you have Smeagol, you have Forrest Whitaker, you have big name people that they brought in on this on a budget that's half the budget of, not even more than half.
Oh, it's like a third. Rings of Power? Oh, it's like a third, dude. Yeah. It's like 10 mil.
Rings of Power.
Yeah, 10 or 12 for this show, I think, right?
Around 16 million an episode, where Rings of Power was close to 50 million to 75 million an episode. It
was asinine, but we should do a separate show on that sometime after we watch it. I'm not watching that, incidentally. I'm never going to watch the rest of that shit. It was awful. Dude, I agree with you 100% on the acting. I think as much as I gab on about the spectacle of certain things like the TIE fighters and backgrounds and things like that, I've mentioned before that some of the actors, some of them, the characters don't even have any names, like the Commandant's wife from the episode where the heist went off when she was at gunpoint being terrified. There's scenes where Maarva just being like an older lady in a chair looking exhausted. Good stuff. So it's not even the heavy hitters like the Skarsgårds and the Whitakers. They do their thing. I mean, they could phone it in and it would still be great, but they're not. I mean, they're giving you what they got. Even quiet moments like Vel looking out the window, wishing she was with her woman instead of, doing rebellion shit. Like, she just sells it with this little lip bite, little somber look out the window. Like, she's not going to cry. She's not going to throw a hissy fit or anything like that. She's just feeling a feeling. You know what I mean? Even things like Brasso that were super subtle, just when he's got the gear under his arm, he's walking down the street, looking around, there's fucking way too many stormtroopers around this bitch, and he's just like giving stink eye. What the hell is going on here? No dialogue, and we've said that before about this show. Like, there's sometimes like dialogue can be overdone, but in this show it's applied tactfully, and it just works. So like when I was talking to you the other day, and I was saying this might be my least favorite episode so far. Dude, I don't know what it was. I might have just caught it in a bad mood or I was tired or something, but this episode actually put me to sleep, and I totally forgot everything about the Maarva stuff where they, mentioned that she had been poking around and, found like tunnels and shit, because they didn't just say that to say it. They're going to use tunnels later to attack this hotel. That's happening. That's how Bix is getting broken out. Fact. It's how it's going down, And, I think I was just like dozing in and out and just like, oh, it's just prison shit, and they're just working at the tables, and like I totally missed the part the first time, because I watched this like 3 times now, where like they play a game for productivity. I'm like, oh, see, that's interesting. So like I liked it a little bit more. So I'm walking back my statements that I made to you, off show like a week ago. You want to score this one before I score it? Because I think you're a little bit more generous than I am week to week on this one. Is this another 3-ish, or what do you think? Yeah, we're looking between 3 and 4. Yep.
One thing to point out is that we're back to the original director, the director of episode 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, dude, I forgot to ask you that pre-show. My bad. Yeah.
Yep. And it's still written by the guy who wrote American Assassin and all the spy stories. So I can't score it bad. I think this is a really great show, and they're doing a fantastic job with continuity. Acting is above average, and I believe they're doing this because they need this one to succeed for Star Wars.
I think,
and it's not getting the ratings it needs. But you have to think, a lot of people don't want to do the week-to-week, wait for the week. They'll wait till all 12 are out, and then they'll watch it.
That's a good point.
So and I think they're playing for that.
What are you going with score? Did you say somewhere between 3 and 4, so we're just going to average to 3.5, or are we going higher?
Actually, no, I'm going to go with 4. I'm going to go solid 4 on this one.
Flat 4, okay.
Solid 4.
You know what we should have done? We should have come up with like graphics where we keep track of the score week to week, so we can see it like on like a spreadsheet. We'll have to work on that for like a next co-op project. I probably would have given this a 2.5 had I not gone back and rewatched it and picked up the little bits with Maarva, picked up the little bits of like the inmates playing the game for productivity and for better food. I think that knowing, actually, because you've reminded me today, because I had already prefabricated my score, the reason the guy killed himself in the block was because of that. He was the guy that had the conversation about the sentence being doubled. Like, that adds a little bit of emotional weight to, like, characters whose name I wouldn't know if it wasn't subtitled. Because, like, I think they said it once when he died, like, oh, it's Vmos. I probably would have missed that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but like, no, like that, but that now he just elevated himself in 2 quick lines of, you know, asking about the sentencing thing. And then whatever he said, you know, there was ominous leading into that night before, and then killing himself. Like, oh, dude, okay, well, dude, that sucks. This is a bleak situation. This is worse than you thought it was, Matt. So I'll go from 2.5 to a flat. I'll go 3.3. Extra points for Luthen Rail and the Saw Gerrera scene, because I love that back and forth. Because it reminded me of the scene with Rail and Mon Mothma, where it seems like they're talking about one thing, and then very slowly it just gradients down into like, no, we're here on business for sure, and it's not just like buddies talking. You know, they're not doing like a podcast on like Rebel of the Week shit. So I thought that was so. That's 3.3 for me. What do you guys think of this one so far? If you're still watching the show, I'd love to see some comments in the section. I know people are watching it, but because Disney won't disclose the viewership numbers, it's just King Z and I doing our thing for y'all's benefits on those long drives and long shifts, and we appreciate that support. So if you want to drop us a like, comment on the show, tell us to go shove it, whatever you want to do, sub to the channel. And any last words for you guys? Because I know we got episode 9 coming up next. We're not done by a long shot here. You want to throw anything in? Let's just do it.
One more to go.
All right, dude. Let's get up out of here, and we will see you guys in the next one.